Welcome to Democracy-ish. I'm Danielle Moody.
And I'm Wajatali. And just compare and contrast Danielle today from when she returned from overseas a couple of days ago. I wish I had a photo. Go back and look at the video. When she came back from overseas a couple of days ago, she had a pep in her step. Her skin was extra glowy because black don't crack. The red popped a bit more. And then she was just in America for like what? How long you been here? How long you been back?
Week today.
Okay, 1 week. And then now she's back to
yeah.
And how can you blame her, folks? Can you blame her? Because all she did was I sent the outline last night for today's show. And the folks, I'm not making this up. The title was Trump's March to Martial Law. And I used all the available data that was given to me as of last night. And then we wake up, Danielle, and we wake up today in a couple hours to what? What do we wake up to?
I'm gonna play the clip. I'm gonna play the clip.
You all know Chicago's a killing field right now, and they don't acknowledge it. And they say we don't need him. Freedom, freedom. He's a dictator. He's a dictator. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with great common sense, and I'm a smart person.
So before we go to unpack this, one, I think that this is the first time I've actually looked at Donald Trump in about a month, because while I see pictures and things like that, like I don't actually really look at the videos. I'll be very honest. I feel like it's like staring at Medusa. And so
you get frozen. You become frozen in orange.
Right. I'm looking at him right now. I just want to pull it back up.
You all know Chicago's a killing field right now. And
One,
they don't acknowledge it.
Look at his mouth.
They say, we don't need him.
His
Freedom,
eyes,
freedom. He's a dictator. He's a dictator.
Hands.
A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator.
Notice, Daniel, look at the left hand covering the right hand. This is very deliberate.
Common sense, and I'm a smart person.
Okay, so this, right? If you've been noticing this, the right hand a couple of days ago has a massive splotch, and they tried to cover it with makeup and make it worse.
I don't know who tried to cover it with makeup, because it looked like they just put whiteout on it, and like
whiteout on orange.
I know how to apply makeup, and one would say it's a crazy word. It's called blend. You blend it. But well, they're saying, Waj, that he has this bruise because of IV medication. Well, I mean, they're not saying it, but
no, they say because he's shaking so many hands. They said because he's shaking so many hands.
Shaking so many hands, but allegedly, doctors are saying, and folks are, they're making a hypothesis that he is on IV medication because of his alleged congenital heart failure, which would explain the swelling in his ankles, his hands, his staggered step, the fact that you're seeing, like today he was wearing a tie, but he hasn't been wearing a tie because there is like restriction in terms of oxygen. So, I mean, I want you to tell people I don't know if you can, about what you just received before we got on air. But we're running through a lot today, folks. And like Waj said, I've been back a week. It has become crystal clear to me that I do not feel well again. And like recognizing I don't have to live like this. There is another way for us to live, and it is not like this. But tell them what
All right, so I posted this at 11:40 a.m., which is just 24 minutes ago. Trump is going full fascist early because he is weak and unhealthy. I think his inner circle realizes this, which is why they're trying to get as much done as quickly as possible and go full authoritarian for Vance to have as much power as possible. This was right before we came on. And then I had someone who I won't name, never Trump Republican, whose significant other was very high up in the Bush administration, the George W. Bush administration, who just sent me an email right before we went live. Agree. I rarely post outside my lane. Hope you're doing well as possible. Greetings from occupied DC.
So
You and me are crazy, Danielle. We're crazy.
look, we are now 8 months in. Donald Trump is, this was said by Milley last year. Trump's top general calls ex-president, and he was ex-president at the time, fascist to the core and most dangerous person to this country. That's what he said in his book. This is last year. Again, October 13th, 2024. Trump floats sending military after U.S. citizens on election day, citing, quote, radical left lunatics and, quote, the enemy from within. This is not a drill. Fast forward. Stephen Miller at the beginning. Turn your mic down a little bit, Waj.
How's that?
I think it's better. Yes. Stephen Miller. This is what? When was this is July. This is posted. California and Los Angeles are waging insurrection against the federal government. Cartels are waging war against Americans. I want you to take a listen. I promise not to play this a long time because Stephen Miller has a way of infecting people's soul, like the vampire that he is.
California and Los Angeles are waging insurrection against the federal government. They are protecting those who traffic in the suffering of children. And by the way, do you know why so many of these unaccompanied alien minors are being put to work in slave wages and slave conditions all across California to pay?
Lies.
But he used the word, folks. This is the world's worst I told you so. Danielle and I have tried our best with our limited superpowers to connect the dots and tell Americans what's down the pipeline. Kamala Harris, there was a clip that resurfaced where she openly talked about what Donald Trump is doing and about to do, sending the National Guard. That one quote of his from October, I have tried to essentially bring up every week since he said it. Stephen Miller in July, the clip that Danielle just played, he used the word, folks. What was that word he used? The I word.
Insurrection.
Insurrection. Danielle, can you remind us about the Insurrection Act?
So essentially, the insurrection. What does the Insurrection Act say? The insurrection.
The Insurrection Act allows the president of the United States of America to unleash the military against the American public and federalize the National Guard, take all the National Guard of the cities, and to try to quell an insurrection or civil unrest. The term or insurrection is hard to define. The last time it was invoked was, wait for it, folks, Los Angeles, 1992.
Okay. So here's the thing that I've been Googling, right, as we're going through the news this morning. I've been Googling martial law, right? Because I think that it's important for everybody to get a grip on what is happening, right? So Donald Trump is now, right, the National Guard that is patrolling unnecessarily Washington, D.C. Pete, I can't stop drinking and I'm an alcoholic, allegedly, has authorized the National Guard to carry weapons. The National Guard, right, for carrying weapons around against American citizens. The military didn't even carry weapons, I was told, like when they were on the ground in Kuwait, right? And this is what Donald Trump is doing. And so the Pentagon now has agreed to this. And just to make people understand what is happening, this is from Newsom's press office. Fox refuses to show you this stat, but we will. Louisiana's murder rate is nearly 400 times higher than California's. All of the places that Donald Trump is now sending troops or threatening to send troops to have record historic low crime rates. The places with soaring crime rates, however, are in what? Red states. Donald Trump is waging his campaign of retribution against blue states that voted against him. And he has decided that he is going to occupy those states by making up the fact that there is an, quote, insurrection, that there is untenable violence. He called Chicago a killing field.
Yep.
Chicago is where the DNC held convention last year. I got to tell you, I was walking around bright skies, sunny streets. No fucking killing field did I see. But by arming the National Guard, you are upping the fucking ante that somebody is going to get killed. Thank you, Don. You know what, folks? Like, here's a little bit for those, because Kent State happened. When did Kent State? 1970.
Yep.
In 1970, members of the Ohio National Guard fired into a crowd of Kent State University demonstrators, killing 4 and wounding 9 Kent State students. The impact of the shooting, this is according to kent.edu, was dramatic. The event triggered a nationwide student strike that forced hundreds of colleges and universities to close. Folks, we've been down this path before.
Yep.
And we know how it ends, because why? Because these National Guards members, the military, they are not trained to deal with civilians. That's what we have regular cops and law enforcement for. And they barely do that fucking job well. So now you have military personnel that are used to being in what? Enemy territory, at war. And Donald Trump has now made it so that our U.S. military, which Kamala Harris, as you so wisely said, Waj, told the country what was going to happen if Donald Trump became president again. And if you remember, thehill.com called her hysterical.
Yep.
Said that where is she getting this make-believe from? If I were Kamala Harris, I would fucking sue thehill.com right the fuck now and say, oh, I was making it up. So here we have.
And also, can we keep receipts? Kristi Noem, fascist Barbie, who is now Donald Trump's head of DHS, also last year on television went and accused Biden and threatened Biden. He better not send the National Guard or else he'll see. And no one plays the clip on corporate media. No one else brings up the receipts that Kristi Noem and Republicans were the ones through projection saying that it would be Biden who did this. And if he did this, this would be fascist and overreach. But when their daddy is doing it, they're all going to bend the knee. They're going to literally destroy America. Folks, I believe, just to bring things back full circle, Donald Trump, as Danielle said, notice again, his hand is very deliberately covering. The left hand is covering the right hand. He's hiding behind the desk today during his unhinged presser. We'll talk more about that because he also said more fascisty things. The cankles. He's hiding the cankles. As Danielle said, he doesn't look
He does
right.
not look. He does not look. I mean, let's just be clear. Like, Donald Trump, to me, has never looked well. But if you're looking at even a few months ago,
Nope.
and now, he does not look well.
He doesn't look, and he couldn't walk straight when he sat there like his Putin's lapdog, and gave him fellatio when the red carpet was rolled out. Just look at that clip. He's not walking straight. He's falling asleep a lot in public at Pope Francis's funeral. He was the only world leader, like literally just knocked out. He's been knocked out.
Falling asleep at his own cabinet meeting.
At his cabinet meeting where they went around the room and gave him fellatio at the first 100 days, he fell asleep. Folks, we don't know, but my grandmother had this also. And my grandmother was in her early 80s, and my grandmother had degenerative knee disease, and my grandmother had to be on Lasix to remove excess water. And my grandmother also had congestive heart failure. And my grandmother also had to go to the hospital every couple of months. So this is a man, just looking at him, you don't have to be a doctor. Clearly, he's not doing well. Also, this is what happens when you have the world's oldest person elected. When he was elected, he was 79 years old. That makes him the oldest person elected, even older than Biden, even older than Biden. And folks, we remember with Biden's health, remember Daniel was last year. Compare Biden last March to last September. At that age, sometimes, folks, you go down. But even Biden mentally was sharp. He could still ride a bike. So things around that age, once you start going down quickly, it amplifies, right? Like if you, God forbid, are at that age and you break your hip, they give you like 5 years to live because you become much more fragile, right? This is no disrespect to our elders. It's just facts of life. So this is Donald Trump decomposing in real life. I want to go back to a point I'm trying to say is the people around him aren't stupid. Rupert Murdoch, when he dropped that Wall Street Journal article about the first Epstein, story, Wall Street Journal has done 3 stories. I want to remind people that Rupert Murdoch first met JD Vance, right? JD Vance has been awful quiet, vacationing where? In blue states, folks. And Stephen Miller, who's a shadow president, and Russell Vought, who's the co-author of Project 2025. I do believe that these men who are around Trump realize, because they have a friggin' front row seat, I think they realize this guy ain't lasting. Now, I'm not talking about dying, but like lasting, right? Like you could be physically ill.
I think that he's dying.
Probably could be dying too. And they're like, okay, we have to bum rush our 4-year agenda in 10 months. Because they also realize, Danielle, that JD Vance does not have the presence or the charisma or the story or the hold on MAGA that Donald Trump does. So when you get the shadow puppet, who is Peter Thiel's puppet, JD Vance, we can make the argument for that later if you haven't followed our democracy-ish cases. Just trust us on that. How do you consolidate as much power as possible, knowing full well even your base will fracture after the king dies? Am I wrong here, Daniel?
No, and I think that, the math just makes sense as to what is being laid out. It makes sense as to why Peter Thiel chose JD Vance. It makes sense because he's a malleable puppet with no spine and no brain of his own. Because you have a front row seat to Donald Trump, that he is not well. You know that JD Vance does not, and frankly, MAGA does not like JD Vance.
Exactly.
Like that is actually, they do not believe that he is America first. They do not like the fact that he has a brown wife and brown children.
We were talking about this yesterday with my brown friends. What happens when he brings out that brown wife and brown kids, Danielle?
Yeah, they do not like that. So there is a lot with JD Vance. So there was a doctor yesterday, I think I might have posted him on my Instagram stories, who said, look, I treat congenital heart failure. I've seen this before. You've seen the dementia signs before in elderly, blah, blah. He's like, armchair doctor this. He's not my patient.
I saw the clip as well.
Armchair doctor this. And I'm telling you, he has 6 to 8 months. And I said to myself, so if Donald Trump has 6 to 8 months, they've already ramped up. I think that Project 2025, if I am not mistaken, is now maybe at its 60.
Yeah, around there. More than 50%.
I want to get it's 47%. According to the Project 2025 tracker, it is 47% accomplished, right? They are amping everything up because of everything that Waj said. They will lose. So here's the thing, Waj, too. They've already lost their base, which is why they're trying to steal the midterm elections and rig the midterm elections. Correct. Because they know that they cannot count on their base coming out in support, because they've taken away Medicaid, they've taken away SNAP, they've taken away health insurance, and just FYI, as of today, the Daily Beast is reporting that they're also going to take away your ability to get a COVID shot, because they're going to clear those from the shelves. So whether or not you decide that you want the next COVID vaccine, RFK Jr. and Donald Trump Jr. And the rest of them have decided, and this is breaking news in the Daily Beast right now, that you won't be able to get it because they are clearing it from the shelves in the next couple of months. Go to the Daily Beast and see that headline story. I reposted it on my threads, and I encourage anyone who is susceptible to illness, all of those, to go get your shots right the fuck now.
Especially as COVID is rebounding, folks.
Get
A lot of folks are getting COVID who've already had the vaccines.
Go and get the latest shot, because I guarantee you before the end of the year, you will not be able to get them. And while this will be litigated, it will not be released to the public during litigation.
And also, they canceled the $800 million contract for the vaccine to, if I remember correctly, Moderna. So bird flu, if it jumps up, you're effed, because we have cranks and freaks like RFK and others who believe that we need to build natural herd immunity and also believe in eugenics. And vaccine hesitancy has gone down, and measles is skyrocketing, the most amount of measles cases that we had in like 40 years. Children have already died. This is like, Danielle, for those who don't know, spoiler alert, I'm Muslim, and I went to an all-boys Jesuit Catholic high school. Even if you don't believe in God, we got the books and the stories. They've been around for a while. They provide some wisdom, all right? And there's a reason why these stories stick around. Every single story in like the Old Testament of like kingdoms that fall, you read them, Danielle, right? And you're like, okay, it's a parable, right? Like, people can't be that stupid. Once Noah's building the ark, they're probably like, all right, crazy old man. But once the flood comes and it's at their waist, surely, Danielle, people would have gone on the boat. And then according to the stories, the people are like, nah, I'll take my chances on land. And Noah's like, I got a boat. Just come on the boat. And they're like, nah, the water's up to here, Danielle. Nah, I think you're crazy, Noah. Noah's like, I still got space on the boat. The water's up to here. Like, Noah's like, I can bring you on the boat. They're like, nope. Like, story after story after story about human beings' capacity for self-destruction. History stories about how all these great empires killed themselves from within. And I think what we're witnessing, folks, and it's very painful, especially if you're an American watching this, or if you're American abroad watching this, we destroyed ourselves. Mm-hmm. We destroyed ourselves because of our twin sins of white supremacy and greed. Yep. And the avatar, the creature, the toxic Avenger, molded from all of our sins, literally misogyny, cruelty, arrogance, pride, celebrity, fame, is Donald Trump. This blob, this orange, vulgar, disgusting, nebulous, cankled blob, built from within, folks. An American-made product, not made in China like his hats, made in America, the avatar of our self-destruction. I mean, we sit there and we go, God, how stupid are we that we were destroyed by Donald Trump? But another flip side to that, Daniel, that I think about it, how else would it have gone down? It's the most American way possible.
Yep. I mean, you can't, like, when you think about, right, the racism and the greed, and I'm writing about this right now. Donald Trump is the perfect manifestation of America's obsession with celebrity, with wealth, with power, with maleness and whiteness. How long has they would rap songs about Donald Trump and his women, right? Donald Trump and his pageants. Right? Like, this self-obsessed society that has deitized wealth and whiteness, Donald Trump is the natural manifestation of that. Right? And all you needed were a few Republican strategists that could manipulate the reality TV mindset, the junk mind that this country has become now associated with, and pick the puppet that was going to do the work, right? That you could control.
And throw in a Putin, Daniel. I would say throw in a Putin there also.
Was his name in lights, and more money, and more. And all you have to do is say to this man, you'll have more power, more money than you can absolutely. You just have to let us dictate what the policy is, and the coffers will never go empty. So this was a deal that the Republican Party made with the devil and capitalized off of reality TV.
Yep.
To literally create this caricature that has been able now to go full fascist. I want to tell you guys something. I put a prompt into AI, to Gemini before the show about Donald Trump being a fascist, right? And I want to tell
What did
you,
he or she tell you?
I want to tell you what Gemini, which is Google's AI, responded. Due to the nature of the content you've provided, which is highly political and contains unsubstantiated claims, I cannot provide you with any details based on it. My purpose is to be helpful and harmless, and generating content that promotes potentially harmful and misleading narratives, particularly those involving political figures, falls outside of my safety guidelines. That is from Google today.
Translation, even Gemini has bent the knee to fascists.
Yep.
And Grok, meanwhile, is like a mini Hitler.
So I just like, folks, there is no, like, I don't know. I was saying this to Waj before the show. I honestly, like, the only
Well
way,
done, Margaret.
the only way, Gemini is dating Grok, the only place that this goes is full-fledged violence against the American people.
Which
Waj
is
and
what
I
Stephen Miller wants. Daniel, remember when he unleashed the National Guard in LA, folks? The Wall Street Journal of all places had the reporting that Stephen Miller deliberately wanted provocation, which is why Stephen Miller, who's the shadow president, and Russell Vought, the white Christian nationalist, co-author of Project 2020, the two shadow presidents are probably Russell Vought and Stephen Miller, folks. Stephen Miller unleashed the National Guard and the military against who? ICE, excuse me. He said, go after the Home Depots and what? The 7-Elevens. And he said he wanted the confrontation and provocation. Why? Because he wants to do what, folks? He told you in July. He used the word. He told you. They're not even playing taboo. They're telling you the word. Insurrection acts. If you have a violent uprising, and by the way, even the LAPD folks, we mentioned this last time, but it bears mentioning, we bring the receipts. The LAPD at the time, which has a horrific history with its brown and black residents and citizens, said, hey, thank you. Everyone was fantastic. The leaders were great. The community organizers were awesome. It was very peaceful. It was limited to this much of a small area of LA. But look what right wing did. They made it seem that all of LA was, under fire and riots. And then Stephen Miller used the word insurrection, because what they want, as Danielle was saying, they want another Kent State. They want someone else, one unhinged person, right?
Yep.
And if you go to DC, folks, because of DC's history, right? You see, all the gentrification, and you see the nice homes. And then you see, all of a sudden, you peek the corner, Daniel, what do you see? Like, a place that looks like the slum, and oftentimes populated by
black and brown people.
Black and brown people who are left behind. And in this small section of poverty, literally surrounded by wealth. It's wild if you go to DC and see the gentrification. You see some people. Huh?
It's like block by block.
Literally. You're like, wealth, 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 wealth. What? Wealth, 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 wealth. What? And you see same symptoms of poverty everywhere, especially in poor white places. People lounging around. People don't have jobs. Some people are alcoholics. Some people are mentally unstable, belong, with professional health counselors, but they're on the street. And just one of those people, Danielle, if one of those people starts some shit with the National Guard or ICE, what happens then, Danielle?
Martial law. So this is what Gus just dropped in the chat, and I just want to affirm it. Trump wants to shut the Smithsonian's African American Museum down. He wants to trigger a response in the streets from the Black community and then straight to martial law. Like, everyone sees it. It is a rinse and repeat. But up until this point, all of Donald Trump's actions have been met with calm, clear, and collected protests, right? And so what is going to end up happening? This is hand to God. they're going to find their insurrectionists, even if they have to pay them. I believe that they are going to do what they've done at BLM rallies and all of those things. You get what they did with the student protests on campuses that were peaceful. But then who was it, Waj, that was paying people to come in, right, and act as antagonizers to the peaceful student rallies against Israel?
Yep.
So that is what they will end up doing. And because
it happened during BLM also with the people who were masked and were videotaped, just committing property damage. Later on, we found out many of those people were not at all connected to the BLM or the leaders. And the BLM leaders said, hey, these people have nothing to do with us. And later on, you find out a lot of those folks were militants and white nationalists.
So then we bring in Wes Moore over the weekend. Governor Wes Moore of Maryland was on the Sunday shows, and I'm going to let him speak for himself because everything that he uttered was incredibly important and poignant.
Are you so opposed to this deployment?
Well, there's plenty of reasons. One, it is not sustainable. You cannot continue this type of pace of operations, particularly when it's costing over $1 million a day in order to do this. The second, it's not scalable. You're not going to be able to do this in every single major American city, particularly when many of the cities that have the highest crime rates are the places that have actually deployed their National Guards to Washington, D.C. So who's going to go do the work in their cities? The third, it's unconstitutional. It's a direct violation of the 10th Amendment. And if for a party that talks about state rights, it's amazing how they're having such a big government approach in the way they're conducting public safety. The fourth reason is because it's deeply disrespectful to the members of the National Guard. As someone who actually deployed overseas and served my country in combat, to ask these men and women to do a job that they're not trained for is just deeply disrespectful. And so when we're thinking about all of these lasting factors, when we're thinking about the fact that it serves as a distraction from the fact that the president's disastrous economic policies are making everything more expensive for everyday Americans and making life harder for everyday Americans, there is a multitude of reasons that I am against this, and I will not authorize the Maryland National Guard to be utilized for this.
And so just to lay it out again, he says it is unsustainable, costing taxpayers over $1 million a day. 2, not scalable, since cities with the highest crime rate have already sent their guards to D.C.
6 southern states who are part of the Confederacy. Sorry, Daniel, continue.
3, unconstitutional, a direct violation of the 10th Amendment. And it says forcing guardsmen to do jobs they're not trained for is deeply disrespectful. Also, fucking dangerous. Number 4, distraction. Moore warns that this is nothing but a political stunt designed to distract from Trump's disastrous economic policies that are making life harder and more expensive for everyday Americans. It is also to do what? Distract from the Epstein files.
Yep.
Right? And the fact that you have conveniently moved Ghislaine Maxwell to a minimum security prison. And we are going to learn more because guess what's happening on September 3rd? The remaining victims of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell are holding a press conference where? On Capitol Hill.
Ro Khanna and
3rd.
Thomas Massie are holding a bipartisan meeting. And specifically, when I was talking to Ro Khanna last week, he said, as of now, folks, they have 10. They have at least 10. They're trying to get more. 10 victims of Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein, as Daniel was saying. These were girls who are now women. 10 of the hundreds of girls that were raped by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. So it's not going away. And even the Ghislaine Maxwell quid pro quo, the release of the transcript from Friday, it's still, Danielle, like we predicted, has not satiated the rage of MAGA that was radicalized by people like Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and Pam Bondi, who radicalized them the past 10 years with the QAnon and deep state conspiracy. And they said, you have to elect Donald Trump because he's an outsider. And he's the only one who has the ability to come in to the White House, release the Epstein files, and purge the deep state. And look what happened. They became part and parcel of the deep state. And since May, what we know from the Wall Street Journal is Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, told Donald Trump he's all up in the files, which means, Danielle, the Trump administration, we have to use these words, has been engaged in a cover-up, in one of the biggest cover-ups we've seen a presidential administration engage in years. And he is lying to the American public, because if he wasn't lying about him being all up in the files, they would release the files. Guess what a federal judge said last week when they asked him to release the grand jury testimony? He said, I'm not going to release the grand jury transcripts because that would expose the victims. And in fact, the grand jury testimonies are nothing compared to the treasure trove of evidence that the DOJ already has. And so he punted it back to the DOJ and said, you all have the authority to release all the interviews. But did they, Danielle? It's been 4 days. Have they released anything?
No.
Nope.
So you may be asking yourself, what are the Democrats doing right now?
It would be awesome if you actually refer to yourself as self.
I should, right? Because we're already in an upside down fuck shit of a world. What are the Democrats doing? Right? Like, there are some, as Waj mentioned, Ro Khanna, working in a bipartisan effort to get the victims of Epstein to be able to speak and hear from them. And then there is this useless waste of skin that is Hakeem Jeffries. Do you want to tell the people what Hakeem Jeffries has decided to do over the weekend?
Hakeem Jeffries decided to show up to Sunday and try to prove that he's cool and hip and is down with the kids. And then he spent a lot of time speaking very pretty, but ultimately saying nothing and proving nothing. And when asked about Donald Trump and unleashing the National Guard, he had this clip, and I believe you have the clip. Do you want to play the clip?
Have yet to endorse Zohran Mamdani.
That is not the right clip.
Your party elected about 2 months ago to be the Democratic candidate for mayor of New York City. As a New Yorker,
let me find the right clip.
What does he need to do to secure your endorsement?
I can tell you, I have the quote.
Candid and constructive and community-centered conversation. We
could just listen to this first.
Went off to Africa. I've, of course, been on the road for the last several weeks, dealing in part with the Republican effort to try to rig the midterm elections through their gerrymandering scheme. But Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, and myself are scheduled to sit down with him in the next few days. I look forward to that conversation.
What do you want to?
Okay, so
did he answer anything, folks? And look, this is what he said. It's okay, Danielle, I got it. When asked how he'd fight Trump's plan to send National Guard to Chicago, Hakeem Jeffries replies, I support the Chicago Police Department. These are men and women who have taken an oath to protect and serve these communities, and they do a great job of that. Did you hear a plan?
Nope.
And also, he still hasn't endorsed Zohran Mamdani. This is political malpractice. Okay, I've been saying it for a while. I'm going to double down on it, and I finally see other people coming on board, which is awesome. They said Schumer's got to go. And Danielle, what did I say? It's Schumer and Jeffries. And the reason why people, were hesitant to go after Jeffries, all right, youngish, black man, all right, he can maybe rally, he could be a transitional. I'm like, nope, he's too tainted. He's too much of a yes man of corporate America. He has been groomed, if you will, by those old school politics. He will not be agile enough to evolve and meet the moment. Voila. You need to get rid of Schumer and Jeffries. The entire leadership right now is not built for this moment. They're not built for this fight. They're not made for it, folks. Sometimes, look, if you watch UFC or boxing, right, a champion comes along and the champion's really good, beats everyone up. And then other people, what do? They evolve, they adapt, they train. Like, okay, this person's good at kicking and this person's good at grappling. I got to get better at kicking and grappling. And now his weakness is boxing. So I'll get him by becoming a good boxer. And right, boom, what happens? They dethrone that leader. You have Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer taking on the modern fascist movement with a 1992 playbook. Danielle, 10 out of 10 times, who's going to win? The modern day fascist in 2025 that is willing to burn down the earth, doesn't play by any civility, doesn't play by any rules, brings a bazooka to a knife fight, or the 1992 fighter who brings a policy paper to a knife fight? Who's going to win? If you have money, 10 out of 10 times, who are you putting the money on?
I think I'm putting the money on the bazooka, but are you sure that rapping lyrics from Biggie Smalls can't possibly conquer all of that? Right? Like, are you sure?
I'm going to hypnotize you with my rap lyrics.
Sure that doesn't work? Oh.
No, it doesn't work.
I had no idea. Because in the meantime, what is this lunatic doing? Well, last week he raided John Bolton's home, weaponizing the FBI. And then now he's going after Chris Christie. Waj, please do the honors.
Okay, I do this, folks. Listen, I don't enjoy doing this voice. I do it because I refuse to normalize him. I think when you do the voice, you realize how batshit crazy he sounds, and you have to kind of just sit with it, that this is the commander-in-chief and the king of so many white nationalists and brown and black people who think they're white, but they never will be. I just watched Slappy Chris Christie be interviewed on the Ratings Challenged News, in quotes for some reason, show this week with George Stephanopoulos on ABC Fake News. By the way, what the hell happened to Jonathan Carl's hair? He looks absolutely terrible. It's amazing what bad ratings on a failed television show that was forced to pay me $60 million can do to one's appearance. Can anyone believe anything that Slappy Chris says? Do you remember the way he lied about the dangerous and deadly closure of the George Washington Bridge in order to stay out of prison, at the same time sacrificing people who worked for him? Oh, wait. Chris refused to take responsibility for these criminal acts. For the sake of justice, perhaps we should start at the very serious situation again. No one is above the law. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Chris Christie, and I keep the receipts. Chris Christie was the one who trained Donald Trump when it came to the debates. Chris Christie was the one who stood behind him when everyone else was against him, like the Marco Rubios and the Ted Cruzes. Chris Christie was the one who thought that he would be where Stephen Miller is, right? And what happened? He threw Chris Christie under the bus. And so that's why that same Chris Christie, folks, I keep all the receipts. Go back and look. People are forgetting. Chris Christie was the one who signed up to Donald Trump and Trumpism before Cruz, before Lindsey Graham, right? Then they had a falling out. He threw him over the bus. Chris Christie then became a very high-paid commentator for ABC News. And in the past 4 years, that same Chris Christie, because it's all a big effing grift, now has become a never-Trumper. And guess what? Donald Trump might be forgetting his own name, might be like, drooling. He has Festivus. He will never forget an old grievance. And so he is going after all of his critics. He is going after Chris Christie. He is going after John Bolton. He's like Khan in the end of Star Trek Wrath of Khan. Like, even as he's dying, he has to come from, from from hell I will stab at thee. So this is like quoting Moby Dick. So he's like Ahab. Even when he's like completely unhinged, he will go after Festivus. And Danielle, that was like yesterday. I compiled some tweets. I think what did I send you one where late last night, instead of sleeping, he went after media?
Yeah. Would you like to see that? Here you go.
Why is it that the ABC and NBC fake news, two of the absolute worst and most biased networks anywhere in the world, aren't paying millions of dollars a year in license fees? They should lose their licenses for their unfair coverage of Republicans and or conservatives. But at a minimum, they should pay up big for having the privilege of using the most valuable airwaves anywhere at any time. Crooked journalism should not be rewarded. It should be terminated. I thought he was a free speech president. Didn't MAGA tell me they were all about free speech, Danielle?
I don't know whose speech. They are clearly not. Folks, this show is about fascism, because that's where we are. It is not about saving America's democracy. It is about stopping a fascist. And you don't stop a fascist by voting. That's the only thing that I'm going to continue to say. And so here is Adam Schiff on the weekend shows. When Donald Trump's FBI raids John Bolton's home, it's a signal to any of his opponents, to all of his detractors. If you stand up to this administration, you could be next. To save our democracy, we must reject these tactics of an aspiring dictator. Take a listen to Adam Schiff, but here's the thing. He's not aspiring. It is here.
I search a former national security advisor and ambassador, John Bolton's home and office. I did have the opportunity to ask the vice president about this. He rejects the idea that this is political retribution. Do you believe that people need to let this investigation play out and not get ahead of it at this point?
I think this is clearly retribution. I mean, the idea that what they just picked John Bolton, a prominent critic of the president, at random. What the president is trying to do here is very systemic and systematic, and that is anyone who stands up to the president, anyone who criticizes the president, anyone who says anything adverse to the president's interests gets the full weight of the federal government brought down on them. So if you're John Bolton, you get your home seized. If you're on the Federal Reserve and you won't lower interest rates, you get threatened with prosecution or with firing. If you're a general, like the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, and you issue a report, or the agency does, casting doubt on the success of U.S. military strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, you get fired. If you are the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics and you give a jobs report that the president doesn't like, you get fired. They're essentially going after any critic, any opposition in an effort to intimidate them. That's what this is about. It's not about Bolton per se. It's about anyone else that, like Bolton, might stand up to the president.
I mean, he just ran through the receipts. Does that sound like you're living inside of a democracy, folks?
And that was before today. And that was before today. We're in the morning. For those who are watching us late, we got 1,200 people on YouTube and Twitter. We got 1,100 people on my Substack. Welcome. More than 2,000 folks. That's fantastic. Today in the morning, in front of the presser, he openly talked about flirting with, I don't want to be a dictator, but some people say. And then also this free speech president also signed an executive order, which means nothing, by the way, folks. Executive order criminalizing flag burning. The Supreme Court has said that flag burning is protected speech. So I'm really curious to see what the Supreme Court, the six right-wing hacks in black robes, have to say about that. But if you've been paying attention, you can't burn a flag, even though it's protected by the First Amendment. Supreme Court had a case about that. But you can use a flag to beat up cops, because that's what Trump supporters did on January 6th. So don't burn the flag, but you can use the flag to beat up cops. Donald Trump is going to unleash the National Guard to clean up crime. But if you are a pedophile and have the goods on Donald Trump, you'll be pardoned or sent to a minimum security prison. Donald Trump wants to clean up crime, but only in blue cities and blue states that have record low crime, but nothing in, say, the Confederate states that are suffering from massive gun violence and murder rates and crime wave. It's all upside down because, folks, it's already fascism. And furthermore, today, the cruelty of it and how it goes back to racism, how it always goes back to racism. Danielle, can you tell folks, the good news was Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who should have never been illegally detained and kidnapped and sent to his potential death and torture at CCOT in El Salvador. He was released on Friday, I believe, and Monday, just a couple hours ago. Can you tell people what happened to Kilmar Abrego Garcia?
Detained.
And can you tell them where they want to send this man who's done absolutely nothing wrong?
Sudan.
Uganda.
Oh, Uganda. I'm sorry.
And the reason for that is the pettiness and the cruelty. They cannot admit publicly what they've already admitted in court, that they wrongfully picked up Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who is here legally, who in the past 5 years has married, has kids, has not gone to jail. But because it would require Stephen Miller to concede that there has been overreach, as of today, Kilmar Abrego Garcia has been detained again by ICE. They're planning to deport him to Uganda, a country he has never been to, right? And if they're doing this to Kilmar Abrego Garcia, what will they do to the rest of us? And furthermore, why I think Trump is playing with fire, and the reason why I think he's super desperate, and Stephen Miller, folks, we've said it before, Stephen Miller is a zealot. He has been waiting for this since he was 14 years old. He's willing to burn everything, including himself, down to aspire to his white nationalist vision, folks. People don't realize this man is dyed-in-the-wool zealot. This is the guy who would be in the bunker with Hitler eating the cyanide pills, okay? They don't care. They realize this is their only moment to get it done. And then the white Christian nationalists like Russell Vaught are like, this is it for the rapture, right? So you got white Christian nationalists who are looking for the second coming. You got white nationalists like Stephen Miller who realize they're going to lose on demographics. And then you got the techno-fascists who realize that Earth is dying and like human beings are dying. Instead of using their wealth to like save humanity, they want to get to Mars, all right? But they're all united, folks, by a type of white nationalist vision, right? They're all racist and believe in the supremacy of the white race, and they all love power. And the third thing I would say, Danielle, is the grift. They all love money. On Kilmar Abrego Garcia, Donald Trump is negative double digits, Danielle. And because of the overreach of ICE, he's now negative on immigration. So what do you think is going to happen? We're already seeing what's happening. Protests in the street right now at the courthouses. They want, going back full circle to your point, they are itching with their overreach for one person to, I don't know, say something wrong to an unhinged National Guard member or ICE agent. All it will take is one bullet for the Insurrection Act. And I hope I'm wrong. Sorry, that was from the news of today, folks, because there's so much breaking news. Danielle.
But here's the thing, because this also happened. And I want people to listen to Donald Trump in his own words. Everything that Waj said, 1000% correct. What else does Donald Trump have up his sleeve? Because again, they're thinking ahead.
Peace. God willing, we get peace. Are you open to holding an election in your country?
Yes, of course. We are open for election, yes. We have to do safety circumstances, and a little bit we need to work in the parliament, because during the war you can't have elections, but we can.
Just listen.
We can do security. We need, we need a truth, yes, everywhere, in the battlefield, in the sky, in the sea, to make possible for people to do democratic, open, legal elections.
So you say during the war you can't have elections. So let me just say 3.5 years from now. So you mean if we happen to be in a war with somebody, no more elections? Oh, that's good. I wonder what the fake
you
news
like this idea?
Yeah.
No.
Speaking of news, I got a...
No more elections.
Did you hear what he said? You have here Zelensky, who has had to suspend elections because of war, because there's no safe way for them to hold a democratic election because of Russia's aggression. Donald Trump, however, perks up at the suspended elections piece and says, oh, so hypothetically speaking, if in 3.5 years we're at war, we can suspend elections. And you hear the fucking laughter because these people, once again in the room, are not real journalists. They're the ones that are handpicked by bobblehead Barbie in the press room and Donald Trump to sit there and give him verbal fellatio. So they're sitting there and giggling. And Donald Trump, once again, as the Bond villain that he is telling you the fucking plot out loud. If we can't rig it, right? If we can't outright steal it, we will cancel it all fucking together. That's the plan. You create the conditions for for martial law by putting armed troops on the street that have no business being there, hoping and waiting for stoked aggression to happen. Then you institute martial law where you suspend rights, suspend elections, and you do it just in time, because I'm telling you, I don't think it's happening tomorrow. I think that everywhere is a test case. LA was a test case. Washington, D.C. is a test case. Chicago, New York. Let's see how this dry run works. And then we wait for the summer before midterms. and we escalate, if that motherfucker is still alive, cancel midterms. Because you now have not only Newsom, but others saying, I think we'll check our maps too. If Texas wants to play games, we'll play games too. So if they can't rig it outright, they will create the conditions for absolute violence to then move on to plan B.
And well, plan B, I think, Danielle, they're already doing it. So I think you're saying test case. My only edit and my only pushback to you is, and I hope you're right and I hope I'm wrong, I think they're doing it. I think the coup was successful, and now the plan towards authoritarianism and martial law is in effect. I think this is all part and parcel of the plan. I believe, folks, they are rolling it out already. I don't think it's a double Dutch. I don't think they're testing it. This is it. He told you he was going to unleash the National Guard in October. The National Guard has been unleashed in the nation's capital. The nation's capital is under siege. There are 2,000 National Guard members. The 6 southern states who are part of the Confederacy have sent their National Guard members. Some breaking news from today. I don't know if you saw, FEMA staff has whistleblowed and said that states aren't prepared for a Hurricane Katrina-like event. Did you see that from a couple hours ago, Danielle? From 2 hours ago.
I didn't need a whistleblower to tell me that.
You guys have FEMA whistleblowers. You got the FEMA. Oh, we have a troll here. Hey, welcome, troll. We have a FEMA whistleblower. And also, if there was two FEMA whistleblowers when it came to the new acting director of FEMA. Remember how the mediocre white guys fail up? They were talking to him about hurricane season, and he had no idea that there's a hurricane season. He's like, huh? What? And they were like, So we have the world's worst unqualified white men being put in positions of immense power. People who don't know what they're doing, but they have only fidelity to Donald Trump and or Stephen Miller. We have climate change. We have gun violence. We have an economy that is souring. We have immigrants who are no longer coming to America. We have foreign students who aren't coming to America. We have mail-in voting. He wants to get rid of it. He's openly telling Texas to gerrymander, telling other states to gerrymander. He's openly telling you folks that he will not leave. Danielle, oh, look, can you just tell people what that is and where this is and what it is? Like, literally, he's telegraphing you his plot.
Trump shows off to the Azerbaijan dictator a section in the White House dedicated to Trump 2028 merch, which, side note, is illegal, as they discuss Trump unlawfully pursuing another term. So...
He also did this to Zelensky and European leaders last week. When they visited, he takes them and he has this little side shop and he says, hey, look at this. Look, Trump 20, is it hilarious? And they're all like, ha, 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 ha. Yeah. Does anything that we've said so far in the past hour, folks, give you any confidence that this man has plans to leave peacefully or legally?
Nope.
Look, just be honest. All we did was use his words, his rhetoric, his actions. All right. And now you connect the dots. He's selling Trump 2028 hats. He wants to go against mail-in voting. He literally is asking Republicans to cheat and pick up not just 5 seats in Texas, now 100 seats. Today in the morning, he says, dictators, some people might like that, not me. Last couple of days ago, when he met with Zelensky, he's like, oh, you can't have elections? It might be a good thing. Okay. Today, he said, if he signed an executive order, again, crushing our free speech, you cannot burn flags. Last night went against the free press, right? So much for First Amendment, right? Is rewarding his criminal buddies, pardoned 1,600 insurrectionists, gave a cushy sweetheart deal to pedophile Ghislaine Maxwell, attacking Chris Christie, unleashing the DOJ as his personal Gestapo to go against his enemies, John Bolton. This is a man, folks. Oh, National Guard. Not just the National Guard has been unleashed. Now arming the National Guard, armed National Guard members only in the blue cities, but places where there's a massive spike in crime, like, Louisiana, nothing. All right. Now you got whistleblowers coming out saying we're woefully unprepared for crises. FEMA people talking. You got RFK, a freaking nut who's also a eugenicist. Openly, who's anti-vax his entire life, according to Danielle, the Daily Beast article that she posted, They want to ban the COVID vaccine after already killing the $800 million grant to Moderna to build a vaccine, right, for bird flu. It's a pro-death fascist cult, folks. It's already happening. It is happening. And so what people are saying is, well, what do we do about it? Okay. So sometimes days like this, it's a lot. And sometimes, like I was telling, I was talking to Allison Gill of Mother She Wrote. Okay, how do I put it this way? I'll put it the way that I put it to her. I'm cynical when it comes to the condition and state of America. That does not mean I'm apathetic. I can't afford to be apathetic because I have kids. So I have to choose hope because hope is a verb and hope begets hope. So you can't just sit there and die. Well, I can't. It's going to be bad though, folks, right? You need a balance. When people say everything will be fine, we're America. I've heard this, Danielle. I'm like, nope. This is generational damage. It will require generational work. We are in it, folks. We're in it. We're in the muck. Anyone who tells you things will automatically get better in 2026 and 2028 is lying to you. Danielle and I refuse to lie to you. Anyone who says it's not that bad is lying to you. All right. So our job in telling you this is to have you get, woke. Open your eyes. All right. Open your eyes. Is it too late? Might be too late, but there are more of us than there are of them. What I'll say is this, judging off of what Wes Moore, when he said, why unleashing the National Guard is not tenable. Why I think Donald Trump and MAGA's authoritarian plan is ultimately untenable. There's more of us than there are of them, Daniel. All right. This is a big ass country. I've traveled around it. 340 million, huge country. To implement this authoritarian vision, it's not scalable, to quote Wes Moore, right? Number two. Number three, Donald Trump is underwater. And like you said, his base is fracturing. The Latinos who voted for him, it's gone back to 2016 numbers. Young people voted for him, it's fleeing. Number four, this country worships money. This country loves money. The color green trumps all other colors. Danielle, the economy, no bueno. And then I'll say I'll say 6 as an asterisk. Number 5, Epstein. Danielle and I have been saying it for a while. Epstein is a kryptonite. It ain't going away. It's causing more and more fissures. It's the only bipartisan uniting force in America in the past 10 years. And the 6th asterisk that I will say is America is a country that was born in revolution. We have something in us. It gets activated usually really late, but it's there. He has done overreach. You see people on the streets in DC, white people, all right, in the streets of DC who are pissed off that he is terrorizing that city. 80% of DC is against this. Business has gone down in DC. Uber drivers aren't going to DC, right? You saw people on the streets today to protest Kilmar Abrego Garcia being detained, and now they're going to send this poor man to Uganda. All right. People said, no one's going to care about black people being killed. My friend was talking and he says, I don't think anything's going to happen after George Floyd. I remember I said this, Danielle. I said, sometimes all it takes is a spark. That's all it takes. A spark. One spark creates a bonfire, a beautiful bonfire, a not destructive bonfire in this case. And then you had the largest protest in American history with 15 to 23 million people coming out. So Danielle, I think we're all in it now. And anyone who thought that they would be safe, we've always warned you, fascists come for everyone. And everyone who thought that the guardrails will protect you, we told you that they won't. And anyone thought they could wait this out, you got to go 10 toes down, because fighting for democracy, and I would say reforming democracy, is an active contact sport. And finally, I'll say, the Democrats are still weak and pathetic. They're still playing from behind, Danielle. We need them to be out in the forefront, not play double dutch. They're still playing double dutch, Danielle. So you folks have to push them. This is the thing with politicians. You have to push them. The only reason Gavin Newsom is saying what he's saying and Wes Moore is saying what he's saying is because they're listening to the people who are sick and tired. So you have to push them to do the right thing today. Sorry for my rant. Danielle.
No, I concur on every single thing that you have said. Today is extraordinary in its representation of how rapidly America has declined. On what is coming next is very clear. We have laid it out for you. It is not a If it will happen, it is a when, and it is soon, and that is martial law. And then all bets are off, because what these people want is a militarized America, where Black and brown people are criminalized, are detained, are sent out of this country to torture camps to die. They want the same for the LGBTQ community. They want the same for the Muslim community. They want the same for the Jewish community. And they are going full steam ahead because Donald Trump is incredibly unwell. And they know that once their king is no longer able to sit behind that desk, that they will have run out of time, because who is coming in his stead does not have the pull and the charisma of Donald Trump. And so, friends, as Waj said, we are in it. Like, this is fascism. It is not coming here. We're not sliding there. It is here, right? We are neck deep in it. And America needs to decide how it's going to get itself out of it. It is going to take years, years upon years. And I don't know if America has the will. I don't know if it has the grit. I do know that we have wonderful blueprints to look at of those other nations that have been able to fight back. And it is not without great violence and great loss. So, friends, look, we appreciate each and every single one of you showing up. We appreciate all of the effort and the resources and the likes. And we know that today is a lot. So if you need to take some time for yourself, take deep breaths, do some meditation, go for a walk, because we're in it. We're in it. And we got to find our way out of it.
Well, we're here with you. We're here with you. We keep it real. We keep it honest. We try to keep it 100. We don't sugarcoat. We don't bend the knee to anyone. We speak without fear or favor. We're independent media. We have kept everything for free, not because we're stupid, but just because we're fools. We are terrible capitalists. Danielle has her Substack Damn Digest. Oh, Susan's awesome. Please go subscribe to Damn Digest. If you have a few bucks, become a paid subscriber. We have about 1,100 or 1,200 people watching my Substack right now. The left hook, like Danielle's Damn Digest. Everything is for free. Become a free subscriber. Folks, we also have Danielle Moody's YouTube channel, from which we do democracy-ish. Danielle is this close to 30,000 subscribers. This close. So ring the bell. It's free. Everything's for free. And Danielle also hosts like 14 shows. Danielle, tell them your next show today or tomorrow.
No, my next show is the Danielle Moody Show, which will be live at 5 p.m. Eastern. The Danielle Moody Show is live Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern. And, folks, I just say, stay connected, stay in community, stay grounded, do what you can. It's a lot. It is like trying to breathe inside of a tsunami, filled with acid. It is a lot. It is a lot. We appreciate every single dollar, every bit of support that you guys showed us today. Appreciate you. Thank you so, so very much.
We will, inshallah, see you Wednesday for midweek check-in, which is on our Substack. That will be 3 p.m. Wednesday, inshallah. And then we will be back for democracy-ish Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern time. Be kind, be empathetic, take a break, breathe. It's a long walk. We don't need martyrs. We need joyful warriors. And folks, please, oh, please don't be a fascist.